Yeah, I think that we'll just slowly start. So, welcome to this afternoon webinar on food safety culture, on what is, at least here in the outskirts of Copenhagen, a very, very windy day. So it's good that we have some stuff to do inside, I guess. So I will. If you have questions, just write them in the chat along the way. I have a chat screen open here next to me, so I will keep an eye out for that. And then we'll take at least some short questions there, and then in the end we can see if there's time for some longer questions. So before I start, just a few words on me. I'm a hygienic design specialist, hygienic operation in general, working with a lot of different aspects of food safety and hygienic operation in food plants. I'm heavily involved with the European Hygienic Engineering and Design Group, and that is one of the activities that we have here at Force Technology, is that we are accredited according to EHATS to certify equipment. But beside that, I do a lot of projects also with companies on policy in different aspects of food policy, food safety, food contact material, and so on. So I have a broad background in food safety. But today we're going to talk just a little bit about what food safety culture is, a bit about how we can improve it, and I will also say why it may be much more up on the agenda for a lot of companies. But if we look at what is food safety culture, then it can be explained as being shared values, beliefs, and norms that affect mindset and behavior towards food safety in, across, and throughout the organization. So it is something that will build and also maintain a focus on food safety, which is on top of what we would describe by procedures and also policy. So culture is the top level. And there are many good reasons why we are focusing on food safety and food safety culture. There's still a lot of people who get sick and even die from food poisoning every year. And that is, of course, highly undesired for everybody in the food chain. But looking at the cost side also, which is evenly important, because there's a lot of the recalls and bad cases with food safety that would lead to product recalls, and that could end in lawsuits, but it could also end in brand damage. So there's a lot of reason why, as a food producer, it would be of the best interest to have the highest level of focus on food safety. And then here, as I put here, it's a legal requirement in the EU. The Commission changed the regulation on food hygiene stuff. Did that March last year, and it now says that it's mandatory for all food producers to maintain and develop a food safety culture. And speaking with the Danish food authorities, they say that in the wake of all of this development, they would start what they call more flexible audits in food plants. And what flexible will mean is perhaps a little difficult to find out right now. but they're saying that rather than focusing so much on how people are doing it, they would focus more on asking people questions on a higher level, saying that they should know what they would do in a case of a fault or a risk associated to food safety. So we say that we go now from a level where procedures and policies have been enough, and saying that we need to raise it to a higher level with a food safety culture. And when we look at it, it's something that we say you can hardly copy it and say from one company to another. There may be a lot of things that are similar, but culture is something different for every company, and it may within a company also be that the culture differs from site to site, or even from department to department. So what we need to work on is have adapted culture approach to ensure relevance, and I think that this is important, and I think that we probably all know this already in a way. They're saying if we are building something and people cannot see the relevance, then it will be difficult to make it work. And when we talk about culture, this is where actually, if you say, if people don't want to do what you are trying to make them do, they would just walk the other way. So this is not something, culture you cannot force people to do. You can force people, or try to force them, to follow procedures, perhaps even policies, but the culture is built also by the people, and I'm coming a bit back to that. But the whole concept starts with a company's mission and vision and values. So it's the foundation of the company and the culture. And if we look at some key elements, and I use this green and red a couple of times, saying that the green, of course, is those that we really want to enhance, and the red, some of what we would call shortcomings, even something that we would want to move away from. So one thing is definitely to treat food safety as a potential business risk. This meaning that if you are not complying to a high level or a set level of food safety, then it is indeed a risk that would be treated as something that would really impact the whole business. Working with principles like safety first, and also in that, saying that fault finding is valued. So if people are coming and reporting a fault or a risk, that it is actually valued, and not just said, okay, write me an email or write a note and put it in the box and we will look at it. That is really discouraging for people when they come with something and say we could really improve this. So this safety first, it actually needs to start at the top management level. A we do right attitude is also somewhat of what would make a stronger food safety culture, and also a willingness and a commitment to continuously improve food safety. So whenever something is there, there's always a possibility that you can improve and even build on that. And the last key element that I brought up here, that we could have put many more up, is building competence continuously. So if people feel that their competence is built on and increased and improved a long time, they will also be more likely to embark on this journey together in a company. But some of the pitfalls, and perhaps when we write them up like this, we can always also say, I mean, yeah, but that's right. That is not very good attitude. But lack of delegation of food safety responsibility. I mean, if not everybody is somehow responsible for food safety, it is difficult to build a strong culture. So that is one. And if people are lacking the skills, so if we're saying, oh, but at a certain level below there in the organizational structure, people don't need to know much about food safety, then that is also a step in the wrong direction. Lack of top management involvement, of course, is the opposite of what I just said above. And also this, that if you have an ad hoc approach to breach of food safety, instead of saying we have a system, we are handling food safety, we talk food safety, and the opposite of that is to say, okay, when something breaks, we will fix it. So that kind of attitude is really what we see at the bottom of the ladder when we talk about maturity. So in a food safety culture, there is definitely a strong element of direction setting. And that is here when values and visions are made by senior leaders for all employees to follow, then it's also important that pointing right back at the senior management that they will walk that path along with the employees, and just saying this is not something that you just made it and then somebody else will implement it. This is something that should be alive in the entire organization, be a part of the daily life. So food safety culture as a priority is to make it core business, core of decisions that are made. So whenever changes are made, whenever something new is done, when a new site is built, or when something is refurbished or maintained, food safety culture will have a say, will be part of that life. And of course, that would set directions and future of a company. So just the last on the leadership is that already said it, the leaders need to walk the talk. So it's not enough just to say this is done, we have set the direction. And this also goes into that, everybody, and that would also mean people who predominantly are focusing on predictions using spreadsheets, for example. So people like the financial department, CFOs, and so on financial officers, they should also know that food safety is core. So everybody, leadership, need to be engaged and set the behavior and act as examples. If you look into management styles, then example setting leadership is only effective if the employees really can see that this is not something which is just made as a poster example saying we will go this way, but they will only feel that this is true if they can see that it also impacts the behavior of the managers. So this is very sensitive, because people are looking not just for examples, but people also looking for what are people doing, what is important. So I will come back to that a little later, but you cannot make a culture change, if you are not wholehearted in the process. It's a lot about the people. So I have a few slides here on people, and people are the heart and soul of culture. And sometimes you would even find, if you study culture, that there will be a subculture somewhere. That can even be a culture where people are making things work despite what sort of top management would say. So sometimes these subcultures they develop, and that is something, if you want a combined and a yes, of course, we're sending slides, and it has. I mean, sorry, you'll get the slides, you'll get a follow-up email, and I'll come to all that in the end, but you will get the slides afterwards, of course. So, but you need to make this an engaged and a whole thing for the company. And then metrics and key performance indicators, they must be aligned, because there are so many studies that say you get what you measure. So if you are saying this is important and you don't measure it, employees will tend to say, but we don't believe it, or it would be the subconscious part of the brain that would say, that is really not important. So metrics and KPIs must be aligned with the directions that are set. So if we look here at the positives on the people side, then it is engaged, people feeling self-motivated and committed. I mean, this is not things that are coming out of the blue, but I mean, if people feel important, there's a strong self-motivation. Also, if they feel that they can actually influence a thing, that will also be a motivation factor. And the commitment may come as a result of being motivated. But one thing which is really key here is to feel important. And I'm not talking about that you should make people feel more important than they are, but everybody. I mean, this is my good colleague Annette Larsen, who's also listening in here, always says that being a chain of food safety is not stronger than the weakest link. And I think I just nicked that one today. Annette, and saying here that if you don't feel that you're an important part of assuring food safety, then that would be a demotivating factor. But you also need to be informed, so you need to have the proper knowledge, and you also need to have responsibility. So somehow responsibility needs to be delegated. That does not mean that you have necessary, because of delegation, that everybody could pull the plug and stop the production, but that everybody knows what is their responsibility, who will they go to when they see something which is wrong, and that they also can see that those people they go to, they are acting responsibly. So the negatives, part of it is the opposite of what is said just now, but being low engagement. And if there is a culture of taking orders, so you're just waiting for your order, that is really not motivating and not really making people take more responsibility. If people feel a lack of purpose and not clear responsibility, so some of that is on the negative side. This can happen. This could be a well-driven, well-run company. You don't need to say that. This isn't necessarily bad in a company, but if you want to engage people and make everybody part of creating a good food safety culture, this is not desired behavior in a company, and something needs to change that. So employees need to be able to initiate, lead a positive change. A positive change can be that whenever people are coming up with an idea, that it would actually be taken seriously, and if at all possible, investigate. Is this good? Positive recognition, both of peers and leadership. So not making fun of people. The whole thing. We're so good, at least here in Denmark, being so there are people saying, "Let me be the devil's advocate." That is a killer. So instead of saying that, say, interesting. what you say, perhaps we could do so and so. Um, so that is really what is driving culture. People also being trained regularly. I had that on a slide. And empowerment, it promotes the ability to adapt. And that is really important, because if you have a high concern regards to food safety, you don't know what would be the risk elements next week, perhaps. So adaptation and improvement are key elements in having a strong food safety culture and sustaining a good food safety culture. It's something that develops all the time. So if people feel that they are important, they are empowered, they are more likely to adapt to whatever changes might be needed. Um, Communication is also important, and here, I mean, this is a of course a rather general model, but just saying here, I mean, food safety communication is important, and there could be a lot of elements that could be used in making this a regular topic in a company. So this is just also for saying that you need to communicate. If you don't communicate, and you don't communicate daily, you don't have saying this, it's been now 2 years since we had an incident where we need to make a public recall, whatever. So all the good stories, they need to be told, and everybody needs to feel that they are a part of the success. And even when there's failure needs to be communicated as well, but in a manner where we say, this was not good, but we can improve. So we learn from our mistakes. Mistakes are not a bad thing. So if you look at with the people saying, mean how can you move people? Then there are just a few here, and you probably could see that some of them might be better than others. But I mean, the herd effect, that everybody else is doing something, would also make more people do it. My leader is doing it, so that is a good thing. Guilt and conscience, I know it's the right thing to do, but it could, I mean, then we are not really moving up the maturity steps with food safety. And definitely carrots and stick, it may be something that people will fall back to, but at this point, I would say you are moving down the maturity ladder if you are having more of the last two than of the top two. Another aspect is consistency, and being a strong part of a good food safety culture is good routines. So you could say here, good manufacturing practices definitely will be part of increasing the focus. But there is this, that sometimes routines may be made just for the sake of having routines. If they are not intuitive, it's with this, as many other things, where you want to raise people's awareness, that they would rather say, I mean, okay, this is just a silly rule. So if you have too many of those, it will move the other way. But well managed, well directed routines are very good, and it can support accountability. So you actually know who has been doing what, and also that this adapts to whatever authority level people are at. It also supports the performance measurement by done right, and it supports the documentation, all of which is part at some steps and at some level part of an organization with a good food safety culture. Because if you don't have documentation, you don't know what you were doing good perhaps a couple of years ago, and you would like to trace back and find out what is actually good. So part of this whole thing with documentation is creating learning and documenting what you have done of good and bad so that it would be easy to trace. And of course, good safety policies so that it's not like the policies are obsolete because we're talking culture, but it's just that the culture will be on top of that. And I just put up here, I put the metrics on a previous slide, but be aware of poorly defined metrics, because if you're measuring something which is counterproductive, it can undermine the whole concept. And again, that would depend on the context. So what poorly defined measures are will be case specific. Accountability and performance measurement is part of a strong food safety culture. And you can really say that in here with the green and the red button here to the right, this is really what it is about. Strong food safety culture is characterized by the company and the employees being proactive. So making sure that you do everything in your power that you won't have food safety risks, where the reactive is saying, oops, we goofed, but we will make a recall, or we will throw this out, or whatever. So this reactive behavior is characterized by the lowest maturity level in food safety culture, where the proactive is on the top. So again, here, it's about understanding the role. It's about also that if you're beyond your responsibility, who would be the appropriate person to address. Monitoring improvements, an important part, and predict some problems before they occur is important. And that is also why this about monitoring and which is a part also when we look at maintenance, predictive maintenance also based on monitoring, and a lot of good improvements is actually based on proper monitoring, so that you would know that something is actually happening that could risk of tipping something to the wrong side at some point. So being proactive, as put over here, that's important. So so that's the preferred behavior. Then adaptability, and the two guys to the right here mean adapt, and perhaps the polar bear needs to adapt fast in this case if you don't want to melt away. But adaptability is a key issue, and all organizations' response to change will be impacted by the food safety culture, but will also impact the food safety culture. So this is a two-way process. But adaptability and being able to, when something happens, to very quickly make a change and be willing to change, all this, which is the adaptability, is important. Change could be promoted, prompted by a product recall. It could be something else. But instead of just saying, "Oh, that was bad," we make a recall and do nothing. Then that problem might occur again. So there's something wrong, and something needs to be adapted. Something needs to be changed. So a strong food safety culture reflects really in the response to crisis. So it is anticipation, preparation, respond, and adaptation. 4 key steps. So actually planning for disaster, what happens when shit hits the fan, knowing that, and also knowing how to avoid that this would happen is part of a strong food safety culture. And change and problem solving crisis situation. So a very One word, agility. And I think that really people use agility for almost everything, but it's also a part here and I would say perhaps it's much better saying the willingness to adapt new procedures, and that you do observations and respond to change and develop. That is important. And a human-centric approach in this is a good idea, and that you think about always doing constant reinforcement in a positive manner, so that people feel that they are having the knowledge, having the skills, they know that they can actually do this, and that they are safe in the changing environment. And here, just I mean, this guy here, he wants to stay away from unnecessary risks. And so that is, he's come off to a bad start, I guess. The wolf is thinking that, I guess, in this. So all this is about thinking about. I mean, you might say something, but you actually need to do it. So employee engagement, all levels, commitment at all levels, improving awareness, understanding what is hazards and what are the consequences of food-related issues. It is very important because sometimes people may be looking at something and they don't know that what they are seeing, the fault that are in front of them, actually may be in the end a food hazard. That they're looking at something, it would be something that would hamper food safety at a later point. So it is very important that people know that. And also, I see very often that people when they have repair people coming in, fixing something which is a part of the HACCP system. They don't tell people what they're actually doing, and then they may have tampered with something that is part of the HACCP system, part of a critical control point, and that can be a risk. So it is about making sure that people understand what are the hazards and sort of where can they be traced back to, what is the level, the technical level that would affect that in the end. So everybody should feel that they can make a change in an organization. Training is important. Said that, but I mean training and so making sure people have the basic training, but still also that there is training offered regularly, and mentoring can also be a good thing to offer inside a company. But having the possibility of this constant development is interesting when you want to foster a strong food safety culture. And doing internal audits, review near misses. So we say, okay, we saved this one. Why did we save it? Do a review and look at the observations there, so that you can verify why was it more than luck? Because you could say that the well prepared will have more chances of seeing an error before it actually becomes a hazard that would be related to food safety. So if we now look into the maturity of food safety culture, then it is often depicted in 5 steps, from initial to optimized, where we go through improvement steps from a reddish to a greenish color, initial, managed, defined, quantitatively managed, and up here optimizing on the food culture. So you can see here, processes are unpredictable, poorly controlled, and the reactive behavior. Here you may know more about the processes, but there is still a predominantly reactive approach. Here in the middle, processes are characterized and the organization is moving towards becoming proactive. So here, these 3 levels are actually can be very, very good levels. So perhaps not everybody needs to be a 5, but from level 3, where it's defined, you're actually starting working with it. And I would say that looking at very, very quickly, you would move a step up, because here, where there is more quantitatively managed elements, you would often sort of move to that step automatically. So here you know about the processes, the measured and controlled, and on the top level, the focus is on the improvement all the time. So these are the five steps, and I have another depiction here of it where it's the probability of food safety risks occurring is of course highest when we are at maturity level 1, and the risks are more unlikely when we move to maturity level 5. We say proactive attitude, constant implementation of improvements, and wide understanding of food safety culture. So that is the top. Here's you start a proactive mode, you understand the importance of food safety culture and management systems. A step down, basic principles are set, but still working mostly in the food contact and production areas. So it doesn't leave the production, it doesn't sort of spread out in the entire organization. And then the 2 low maturity levels is more reactive, and actually not really food safety is prioritized unless there is a case to relate to. So if we now summarize a little bit, food safety culture is necessary in every company that handles a food product, and it's something that should live on a daily basis. Every company and its departments, they will have different methods, policies developed, and so on. It is important to think about this. So food safety culture should not be prohibiting whatever procedures that people already have implemented, but should be something that is more of a we do this kind of action. Leaders should take active part in the food safety culture, walk the talk, be good examples, not just on paper. And it is important to know that people make the culture. The company needs to consider each employee's training, education, and importance to make it work. No matter your level of food safety culture maturity, you can always improve. So when you are 5, it's that constant improvement. So it's a never-ending story, having a good food safety culture. So you can make little changes that has high impact even when you are at maturity level 5. And the devil lies in the thinking that food safety culture is a project. Project is something we do the project, it ends, and now we are at a level, it's a fixed thing. The effort never changes, never ends. That is the important message here. So I'm not completely done, but I think that at this point, if some of you have a question, feel free to write in the chat, and you can also think about the questions. Then I will talk a little bit more, and then we can have some questions. You might even I don't know if actually my marketing guys set this up. I don't even know if I can open your mics, but I mean, please write in the chat. So what have we been doing here at Force Technology to try and help companies, food companies, assess their food safety culture? So we have one of the initial steps from our side is that we have made a self-assessment questionnaire. It's 11 questions, and a free text in the end, so it's actually 12. But what we do is that we start by asking what staff level people on, what is your main interest, technical, financial, and also asking if people are in QC, QA, because that would give a little biased result, we believe, and just some metrics on the size of the company. Then we have 9 key questions, here, and there will be 5. So it's a multiple choice. So you tick off one of 5 answer possibilities. But going through, do you think your company has a good food safety culture implementation? How strong is the focus on food safety in your company? Who takes responsibility of ensuring food safety? How much are managers are talking about food safety? And how are food safety problems, concerns brought up by staff handled and solved? And how much training and learning on food safety related topics is offered to employees? Do the employees put their food safety skills and knowledge to practice on the job? And also, is it important for the company to make constant improvement? And how would you describe your knowledge of current legislation on food safety and related topics? So that is 9 questions, and based on that, we have a score that would put people on one of the 5 levels that I talked about before. Then there are the 3 extra questions, you could say, and they are voluntary, but people can write a little bit about what drives and inspire them, and also if they would like, not necessarily to place an order with us, but I mean, if they would like to engage a contractor and coming in and be part of the journey with building a food safety culture. And this link, you will get the link to the questionnaire. The questionnaire is anonymous, but if you would like to get your feedback, you will be asked to put in your email, and mean to access it. It is what we here call gated content. So when you, I would just swap out of the presentation and just say here, you will, when you press that link, you will come to a page, say assess your food safety, state of food safety culture, and you put in your name and so on, and then it would be a 2-step process, and then you get access to the questionnaire, which is looking like what I show here. So you can choose what is the level. Are you mainly technical? Are you involved? No, I'm not. And it's a big company. And then you can see here, you can tick off some of these boxes down here, and in the end, write something and then submit. We will assess it. And of course, they are anonymous. So the only one who will know who have answered this is those that get the feedback. So then I'm actually coming to the last slide with questions. Still nobody has written something. Then I will continue a little bit then, because I just put up a slide here also with what are we doing here at Force Technology. So if people fill out the self-assessment and feel that they would like to go deeper, we have 2 possibilities of more detailed maturity assessment. One that can be performed online. Of course, that would not be as deep as one if we go out on site and work with a company. And we can offer different development projects tailor-made for companies in this respect, and it will always origin in the company's mission, vision, and values, current state, and goals. So there's no one size fits all, as I said. And typically we will start with a management workshop to define scope and content and measurable outcome. We will engage with the client. So we are not, I mean, it's not something that we do. We are helping companies to become better. And hopefully when such a project is done, companies are more able to develop further themselves. And the different personnel we're bringing in here have competence, food safety management system certification, development of policies and culture, food safety systems, food production processes, and a broad understanding of technology and business models. So that will all be part, of course, of the stack that you. So the last thing that I would offer here, and I think we also had that in the invitation, you are welcome to write me an email, and I would be happy to do a 30 minutes free consultation with you if you feel that that is more comfortable than asking questions now, or you would come up later and think that that's something that you would like to know more about, then I would be happy to spend some time with whoever is interested. So so that is a way to move. So any questions? You still alive? You're welcome. So it's, and as I also say, as you say, it is an introduction, and this is a journey. So but I will have our management, our marketing. They will pack a follow-up email where we also will repeat the offer for the consultation. So but if there are no questions, and thank you for the positive reactions in the feed, then I would say thank you very much for attending. And of course, now you have my email, and feel free to write me an email if you have any questions. So thank you for participating, and have a good afternoon.